In part 3 of the Aprilia RS50 Restoration, I focus on the bodywork and decal repairs, paint, paint correction, and final cut and buff. As a reminder, the intention is to save and restore or refinish as much of the original paint and decals as possible. Starting with the right side fairing, which has the most damage, I address the road rash by filling the deep scratches with a mix of the colour match base coat and clear. This type of repair is covered in far more detail in my last how-to video, the link above. For the black, I'm using RS Paints Corsa Black and Rosso Corsa Fluoro Red. The repaired area is then sanded back to the correct height, ensuring that the correct thickness of the decal is maintained. I then mask off the decals so I can paint blend the areas that need to be painted black, followed by the areas of the decal that need to be painted red. Finishing touch-ups are made to the blue IP decal and the white stripe before the entire panel is clear coated. With the clear coat cured, I can set about the cut and buff. First, wet sanding the clear back with 2000 grit wet and dry. Then, polishing it with my 3-inch DA buffer, first with the heavy cut pad and compound, then with a medium cut pad and compound. Okay, and here we have the finished side fairing that we did all the repairs on. So if you recall, there was major road rash all the way through this decal. Most of the top of this decal was gone, and then up through here, this decal was damaged, and the fairing was pretty badly scraped as well. So very happy with the way that's come out. And there is actually, I've covered it just a little bit in this particular video, but I only touched on the work we did because there was a how-to video on this, basically how to repair and restore original decals. But yeah, couldn't have come out really any better. So so this is after doing all the cut and buff. So it's ready to go back on the bike now with the rest of the fairings. Turning our attention to the left-hand fairing, there are some minor scratches that need to be touched up before we can clear coat the entire panel. Starting with the black base coat touch-ups, and then a colour matched white to cover over damage to the white stripe. Once the base coat has flashed off, I clear coat the entire panel to match the right side. With the clear coat cured, I can cut and buff the panel, starting as always with wet sanding the clear back with 2000 grit wet and dry to remove any orange peel or defects. Before proceeding with the buffer. So I've just finished the first stage of buffing this fairing. So I've gone over it with the heavy cut Ultra Pro speed compound and a heavy cutting pad, and you can see already it's looking great. Bearing in mind this whole bike is what we call a sympathetic restoration, where we're just really on the cosmetic side. We're not repainting the bike, we're just trying to bring back the original paint and all the decals to look as like new if we can. So this panel, if you recall, this isn't the side we did the repair on. That'll be the next panel. But this panel we had to do just very minor touch-up, and then I re-cleared, sanded it back, the original factory clear, and re-cleared it with a very nice high-quality clear. And you can see just that alone, you can see how much nicer this panel looks now, and the quality is 10 times better than when it came out the factory. And of course, these are the original decals. We've cleared over them now, so it makes them more vibrant and also gives them better protection. Yeah, so we took a panel that looked very tired. It was faded, lots of scuff marks and scratches. We just cut it back with 2000 grit, wet and dry, and then re-cleared it, did a little bit of touch-up, and then re-cleared it. And it's looking great. So now what I'm going to do, I've got the medium cut pad on, and I'm going to hit it with Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. I really like to use this as the kind of medium cut, and then we'll do the final polish. And I'll bring you back when that's done. Okay, here's the fairing after we've finished with the Ultimate Compound and the medium cutting pad. So now I'm just going to go over this with Meguiar's Ultimate Polish and a micro cutting pad, and then that'll be it. We'll reassemble this fairing and get it back on the bike. Okay, so for the tail unit, this is going to be a little bit more tricky. This whole thing here is a decal, and you can see here it's faded quite badly, and also the clear of the decal, because generally there's a clear covering over the decal, not a clear coat, but on the decal itself. That has actually started to deteriorate due to the UV light being on it. And this is common, actually. You can see like a mottled effect. Now, I have found these decals in, I think, Italy or maybe in the UK. I could just put new decals on. But I think since I've had good success repairing the other decals and painting them, I'm going to do the same here. So I think what I'm going to do, clean the part down. You can see also there's some decal damage here, so we'll have to fill that in. I think I'm going to clean it down. What I'm going to do is actually sand this decal with some 1000 grit wet and dry, see if I can remove some of this damage, UV damage, particularly on the lettering here, because this white, that's easy for me to paint. I'm going to have to repair the decal here, so I need to paint this anyway, and I'll paint the other side. The red, I've also got a good match, and I can quite easily kind of tape off this lettering here, same on the other side, and then just paint all of this red, which is what I'm going to do. Now the lettering though is a little bit more tricky. I can mask off everything else other than the lettering and then just paint the lettering white, but it's quite that's going to be quite difficult to do because of the size of it and so on. Here would be impossible anyway. So I'm hoping maybe this damage, what I think is UV damage, is maybe just in the top, top layer of the decal, and that maybe with a little bit of sanding I can remove some of it. If not, worst case scenario, I can paint the RS. That I can do, and then hopefully the small lettering here and the 50, when I clear coat it, the clear coating will help hide a lot of that damage, because basically clear coat tends to blend whatever is underneath it, and it's not that bad actually. It's not the worst thing I've seen on here. I think with clear coat, make it nice and glossy, this will look just fine, the replica 50. But the RS is a bit more easier to see, bigger letters, so let's see what we can do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll put you on time lapse, clean it, wet and sand this decal. I got to be very careful not to take the white off. So it's going to be very gentle, and then let's see what we've got. Okay, so I just went over the decal with 1000 grit wet and dry, just focusing mainly on this white lettering because like I said, I wanted to avoid painting it, and actually it came up fantastic. You have to be very careful, just do a light sand and then wipe it down and check it, because what you got to be careful of is if you go too deep into the decal, you're going to start tearing up the black you can see here and the red that's around it, and I'm not going to paint inside here with the red. I'll only paint the around it, but that actually came out fantastic. So I'm not going to have to paint this RS or the replica 50. You can see this side actually even better, and once that's clear coated, it'll look great. So that's a win, because I wasn't looking forward to that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to 1000 grit the entire cowl, and then I'll look where I've got to do some touch up on the black. There's a couple of scrapes down here, but actually the visible part of the cowl looks great for the black. There is a scratch here, but I think that might be in the clear coat. We're going to see. I'm going to sand it back. So the only spot I probably have to do some airbrushing is here. There's a scrape, but that's a small amount. I can airbrush that. But yeah, so the main thing on here is going to be repairing this decal. I probably won't show you. I'll use exactly the same method before, where I double tape the edge to get a thickness, and then I mix some white base coat with clear. Use it like a filler to fill this in, sand it back, and then we'll mask the white, paint the white, mask the red, and mask out this area here, paint the red, and that's going to look like new again. Okay, so yeah, I'll put you on time lapse again while I get everything sanded back, and probably the next step you'll see is I'll probably touch up the black first, and then we'll decide if we're going to do the red or the white. Unfortunately, I cannot find any footage of me masking the red area and airbrushing it, then applying the clear coat. But moving on, we cut and buff the part, get the desired result. With the tail unit done, it's time to start work on the front cowl. First, disassembling the screen, which is held on by plastic pins and star washers. There is no major damage to the cowl, but as you can see, the decals have some deep scratches. The right side has some ugly road rash, and the left side is scuffed. So before I carry out the repairs, I thoroughly clean the part, then wet sand with 1000 grit paper. Okay, so we saw previously I did all the decal repairs and paint touch-up and paint blending on the right side cowl, which was the most damaged. Basically, I've done exactly the same preparation for the nose cowl. So you can see here, this nose decal actually was pretty badly scratched, and there was a couple of cuts in the decal which I've repaired with exactly the same method that I used on the side panel. So you can see that there I filled in the gouges in the decal. Now this decal, because it was quite badly scratched up all across the decal and scuffed, I've decided I'm going to leave the decal on, but I'm going to paint that entire decal. So I'll paint the white and I'll paint the red just over the top. So I've actually scuffed this decal up with 600 grit wet and dry sandpaper to get a good tie-in with the base coat paint that'll go over the top. And then on the cowl itself here was where we had the really bad road rash, and that's all been taken out now. I use the same mechanism to fill the scratches. Same here, there's quite a bit of road rash here. And just here. Yeah, and so I'm going to do the black first with the air gun. We'll let that cure probably overnight. And then I'll come in and I'll start to do probably I think I'll do the white touch-up or the white paint first. We'll paint this entire piece here, white, and then we'll do the red. Okay, so I'll just quickly show you the setup I use for the air gun. This is just a pretty cheap air gun from Harbor Freight, the kind of air gun they use for modeling. What I've done is I just filed the end of the paint needle off, tiny fraction, just to give me a bigger paint area, because I'm generally not using this for like painting tiny models. I'm using it for doing touch up on the panels, so that helps me just get a bigger paint area. So yeah, and I'm running that with a regulator off my main air supply. Simple as this. So now I can go to the nose cone, I've got quite a few areas to do here, so I'll start with this area all along here. Again, I don't have to worry about masking the decal, because I will just wipe the decal down with paint prep after I finish, and that'll remove any overspray. We can be pretty liberal with this. This I need a few more coats because I had to go down to the plastic, so I'm going to be liberal here with the coverage. I don't want to miss anything. And especially here, they actually have a white. I don't know if it's a, yeah, it's a white primer, interestingly. But you can see it covers pretty good. That's disappeared now, just with one coat of the base. Actually, this base coat is covering really well. Here's the cowl after we finish paint blending the black. And now I mask off the white part of the decal and give this a couple of coats of colour matched white. Once this is fully cured, I mask off the red and give this a couple of coats of Rosso Corsa. With the touch-ups complete, the only thing left is to apply a high quality clear to seal everything in. And here's the finished cowl after cut and buff. Next up is the gas tank cover, and as we can see here, the clear has dulled and is badly scuffed. Luckily though, the only damage is to this decal, which can be touched up before we re-clear the cover. So, after removing the cover from the gas tank, I sand the dual clear back with 1500 grit wet and dry, apply some touch-up paint to the decal, and then give it a new life with 2 wet coats of high quality clear. finish up the bodywork with some touch up on the front fender and a final cut and buff. So that's where we will end this video, with final assembly and the big reveal already in editing. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for plenty more content to come.